Today, to speak about the controversy surrounding the movie Phule, I have with me Kancha Ilaiah Shepherd, who's a renowned political theorist, writer, and a Dalit rights activist. Mr. Kancha Ilaiah Shepherd, thank you so much for your time for the Hindu and welcome on the show.
Thank you, Maya, for having me on your show. Thank you
Thank you,
very
sir.
much.
So, if we can begin with, the whole idea about the contribution of Mahatma Jyotiba Phule and Savitribai Phule for the education of masses, their intent behind the formation of Satyashodhak Samaj and the reformist ideas, there seems to be a lot of cacophony and no one seems to know what is it about. So, if we can have your word about the contribution of the Phules first.
So, Maya, it is not just the issue of education that started with them in the Indian reform movement. It is actually changing the whole social, economic, and political ideas of India. Now, by the time Pule was born in 1827, there were no rights to Shudras, including Marathas, Patels in Gujarat, Reddis, Kammas in Telugu states, Lingayat, Vaklinga in Karnataka, and so on. Even the Nayars, who were kings in Kerala, had no proper right to education uh, even by that time. So what Pule has done was, uh, as he went to a mission school in English medium, though he studied up to seventh class, what we have today in comparative terms, the man had a new vision for the nation after he read books like Tom Paine's Rights of Man, and he started reading quite early in his life. Now he encountered the Shudra level of unparticipability, not untouchability as such. But when he went to the friend's marriage, he was thrown out, and then he was told that a Shudra cannot come and participate in a Brahmin marriage, and he can't walk in the procession. He was beaten up, and so on. But what other issue that he started was more shocking. If you look at the global reformers and revolutionaries as well, from Gautam Buddha to in Europe, America, he, like many others, including Ranade and Raja Ram Mohan Rai, got married to a child of 9 years old girl. And he was sent into the room to behave like husband. But what this man did, he started teaching her and told the family members, including parents, that till she attains 18 and 20 years of age, I will not have sexual relations with her, but teach her. Now, by Indian standards, a Shudra man not only learning but teaching wife of that age was seen by Puna Brahmins. That was not only the problem of Puna Brahmins. Even the Shudras could not believe that they themselves could study as men but start teaching women was a shocking thing. Then, that was, he was, Tilak was very younger contemporary to him. And the Pune was a cultural city where the Brahmins were the dominant force. The British has already established Ferguson College in that area. So a lot of education among them was happening. And his father was told by the Brahmin groups that either he should stop teaching his wife, or your family will be thrown out of the town. His father tried to convince him that, getting education itself was out of our historical experience, but now you are teaching this girl. He said, no, if you don't want me, I'll get out of your house. And literally, he was thrown out. And where did he go? A Shudra, if I compare his caste status with that of Telangana, Andhra Pradesh, or even Maharashtra, Kumbis, though his family was flower selling family, they were more or less like the Reddy community and the Kapu community. They were not a very lowest of the low OBC. They were far higher in terms of status than Dhangars in Maharashtra. And yet, his education. And where did he go? He went straight into Dalitwada, Pune, and started living in a house. And then he went on teaching his wife, and then he sent her to American mission
School.
School where teacher training was being given. Now, after some time, Fatima Sheikh joined her. Now look at this whole the atmosphere he was living in, and sending his wife to teacher training, and they coming back and starting a school in Dalit house itself. And then he kept it open for not only Dalits, Shudras, and Brahmin girls. Now that was a shocking thing. So, when I read him in around 87, 88, but first time Dhananjay Keer's book, because Phules were not known in the schools like
Outside Maharashtra,
Raja
yes.
Ram Mohan Rai.
In
Or,
Maharashtra, we all grew up, reading about them in our textbooks, but outside Maharashtra, they were not a part of the curriculum.
yeah, they were not known in these school textbooks. And then when I read in the context of Dalit movement happening, Ambedkar name was coming into our life through street fights and so on. The entire communist movement was not willing to own Ambedkar, and they never knew the name of Phule. But they propagated, communist activists, leaders propagated about Brahmin social reformers who reformed their own women life. For example, Raja Ram Mohan Rai, or even Rana Day. In Telugu state, there was one Kandukuri Vireshilingam Pantulu. So they were telling those names, but they did not think in terms of all women. There were Brahmin child widows. There was no remarriage right to Brahmin women, and girls who became pregnant when husbands were alive in the Brahmin families. They were being literally killed after the pregnancy was shown after 6 months or so. So it was that kind of an environment. Mahatma Phule started first Dalit school and dug a well where the Dalits were invited to draw the water, which was a revolution at that time. Now, this is the man who actually started talking about the farmers and the labor and the agriculture. See, in India, there was a school called agriculturism before the Vedic philosophy came in, because the relationship between the seed and land, seed and water, seed and crop and human beings was a philosophical domain. And Buddha tried to negotiate with that philosophy, but later on, the different schools of thought that emerged, the Sankhya school, the Vedic and Vedantic schools, they completely removed the agrarian philosophical school from any engagement. And
But, sir, on that background, if I may interject and if I may ask, not only did Mahatma Jyotiba Phule engage, but with his writings like Shetkaryacha Asu also brought to the forefront the kind of struggles that that entire community faced.
yes, yes. See, when I read his autobiography written by a Brahmin himself, that Dhananjay Kir, he wrote, Ranade's biography, Savarkar's biography, Phule's biography, Ambedkar's biography. And I was shocked. What a Shudra man understanding of. He was not quoting from texts, he was not quoting from any literary sources, Sanskrit or Marathi, but looking at the people's life, their struggles. And then he took up the linguistic nuances from the colloquial Marathi names, when the BCFC asked the producers of the film that you should not use the word like Mahar, Mang, and Peshwai. Pule actually used a much broader colloquial words like Bharji for Brahmins, Shetji for Banyas, and then Shudras, all productive caste as a combined social force with a scientific experimentation going on in agrarian fields.
Do you
Then
see this effort as watering down of historic facts? So do you see this as trying to change the narrative,
there is
because it is unpalatable?
no, it is. See, what at what one end, I am in a way was surprised after BJP came to power with Narendra Modi as an OBC Prime Minister. Even the RSS BJP started renegotiating with Phule and Ambedkar and Savitribai in certain ways. And that renegotiation, they started celebrating Ambedkar Jayantis, Vardhantis, and then this whole demand of Pune University being named after Savitribai was there for quite long time. But after BJP came to power in Maharashtra, they renamed it. And as you know, that Ambedkar University renaming was a huge movement for a long time. And quite surprisingly, this year after the election in 2024, 25 recently, Fadnavis government introduced a resolution in the Maharashtra Assembly, which was a demand from quite some time to
Give Bharat Ratna to the Phules.
give Bharat Ratna to Phule family, Phule wife and husband. But there was a historical hurdle. When Congress government started Bharat Ratna award in 1954, it first gave to Rajgopalachari. And thereafter, only freedom struggle leaders, artists, musicians, and so on. But they never gave Bharat Ratna to social reformers of 19th century. And this government, I'm sure, when BJP government proposed a resolution, all parties unanimously passed that resolution that this year, this greatest couple of India should be given Bharat Ratna. I don't think it was done without any nod from central government or including Prime Minister and RSS. And
Do
in
you
the
see this
same,
as a welcome move? Do you see this as a welcome move that the government?
it was. In fact, I wrote two articles on that. Telangana government should also pass a resolution. Andhra Pradesh government should pass a resolution because in human history, including Gautam Buddha, who left his wife when she was 27, when she was sleeping with a child, and went to build an alternative spiritual school, or Gandhi, who married a child, Nehru, who married a child, even Ambedkar, who married Ramabai as a young child girl. Nobody was like Phule and Savitribai in human history. As a lifetime, not only friends, to take two examples. When they were not having children by the age of 30, Savitri's father comes and tells Phule that, look, you are not having children. It is time that let Savitri be married to another man, and you can have children. No, you should marry another woman and you can have children. And three of you live together and bring them up. That is the practice in many houses when there were no children. You know what Pule says? No, 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 you are wrong, my father in law. It is not she is in the fault. I am in the fault. We will see that Savitri marries another man. They will have children and we will live together and bring them up. That is the that is the greatest human example of a man and a wife. And she said, no, nothing doing. We don't need. And then whom did they adopt? Whom did they adopt? They adopted a Brahmin widow's son, delivered in their own house. When she was about to be killed, they saved him. And Yashwant Rao was made the first doctor of India. And he died in bubonic plague along with his mother in 1898. Not only that, when he died, Phule died in 1990. The Phule relative said that you cannot hold the funeral pot, nor he cannot hold because he is an adopted son.
1890, yeah.
Yeah, then Savitri said, no, I and my husband live like friends, live like the closest human beings who lived a life, who changed the society. I will hold the funeral pot for my husband. She did. Now, this is the kind of
So it
human
was,
being
in
who
some sense, revolutionary at many levels, sir. Here we are talking about the lives of two persons who, in many senses, took revolutionary steps at a time when they were completely unthinkable. And yet, today, just the mere portrayal of those lives seems to be ruffling feathers, seems to be, kind of bothering the fringe elements which seem to have an unreasonable influence on the CBFC?
no, Vinaya, my surprise, my shocking thing, what shocked me most was that, see, Phule, Savitribai as reformers have had a solid recorded history around them. And it is not just one biography, two biographies. Now there are many. Very standard biographies in Marathi also. And they are not like kings like Ajata Shatru or Aurangzeb. You can, weigh them on a very systematic digital scale. Here are people who have changed all our life, including the Brahman life, including the Shudra life. And it is said that, three Brahmin organizations, one Anand Dave, complained to the CBFC about certain words, certain scenes. Like, see, it was a well recorded history that when during the Peshwa rule in Maharashtra until 1920 in Kerala, in Peshwa rule, Dalits were not allowed to come into villages and towns without a pot to the neck and a broom to the waist in order to spit within their pot and sweep the road because they were dusty roads at that time. In Kerala, women were not allowed to have upper garments, the Dalit and Shudra women. And the reform process went on, whether the source of that was Brahmanic ideology. Some of the conservative Brahmins did not want Dalits to come into villages, temples. We know if they were hearing recitations of Veda, lead was poured into their ears, tongues were cut. All this history was quite old anyway. But why the present modern 21st century Brahmin, educated force should put themselves back into their ancestral roles and feel ashamed of that and not talk about it. Even my own parents were treating Dalits untouchable. We are shepherds, lower OBCs. But I didn't like my parents treating Dalits untouchable, not allowing into my house, not allowing them to drink water from my pots. Now, if we don't take the history as a reformable institution, and and all of us live together as equals. Now, take for example, the Brahmin organizations asked that don't use Mahar. But Mahar is not your caste name. Mahar is a Dalit caste name. Now they are using these caste names in order to change the caste unequal content in it. The names may not disappear. Now, see, for example, Deshpande, if you say, I can see where does it come from. I mean, I am not offended with it. I am not against with it. After all, you have an history of surnames, caste names. Now, now there is Sharma, there is Shastri, there is Gupta, and I am not saying remove it. But if you don't want certain names to come into the picture made for the first time by, proper director, proper producer, proper character actors, which could tell our children the history, why don't you want that Brahmin boy throwing dung on Savitribai, which is a fact? Whether it was that age boy, whether it is slightly elder one or old one, we don't know. Nobody knows the age. But there was that incident.
Do you see this as an effort to thwart the mainstreaming of the ideas that the Phules propounded? Because this is probably the first time that a mainstream film is coming on as a biopic on the Phules. So, is it still a botheration that we're still not comfortable being shown the mirror, or do you think that it's just a few fringe elements which are trying to create trouble here?
No, if it were to be just fringe element, uh, a lot of people now are putting out the composition of CBFC also that they are saying there is no single Shudra, leave alone OBC in that. There is no single Dalit in that. I'm surprised how Narendra Modi himself approved that kind of, because the Shudra community, Ma, Marathas, there are quite a lot of artists in film industry from Maharashtra. There are Patels, there are several Reddys in Telangana, and Tamil Nadu is huge amount of SC, OBC, film industrial experts and directors, producers. And nobody seems to have gone into it. The moment there is a small complaint about it, as if the CBFC was waiting for some complaint to postpone the film and ask for cuts. Now, this is very sad. And I am also told that the Information and Broadcasting Ministry also suggested a cut whenever they used Manudharma in the film. Now, there seems to be a tandem between the Information and Broadcasting Ministry and the film board. I think this is very unfortunate. Let the
Is it a problem? Do you see this as an issue with the whole democratic process where art is also not free? Where if you have to portray something which the director himself has claimed adheres to history and there is no creative liberty that has been taken, still faces scrutiny by elements which are beyond the legal system. So instead of protecting the constitutional rights of the freedom of expression, here we have these rights being thwarted.
well, that seems to be the major problem now. Earlier, we know that there were films that were made on Muslim kings, uh, were objected in certain areas, the way they treated, or the history, and so on and so forth. But at the same time, during the same period, films like Kashmir File, Kerala have been allowed without any, cuts and so on. The only film which had some problem, though the present central government was not at all uncomfortable about it, was Ranat's Indira Gandhi film. But that is a recent, prime minister, leader. But here is a social reform. Here is a woman leader, woman social reformer who had no parallel in Indian history, Savitribai. And anything that is coming out in this form for the first time. Earlier, there were Marathi films, short films on them. There were local films on them. But this is a major film
There
made
was a
by.
chapter in Discovery of India as well about this, interestingly, which had portrayed the same scene to which there are objections now.
Yes, I mean, I saw that in the white dress, Phule was shown in that. And now that was made based on the writing of Jawaharlal Nehru himself, right? So, but I'm really surprised why during 75 years, even before the BJP came to power, there were no effective mainstream Bollywood or Telugu, Tamil films on social reformers, because the society needs to be changed gradually, systematically. Social reform is a continuous process. If you are making a film about a king or even about 1857 war, it is not a continuous process that ended there. About a king, if you are making a film about Ashoka, let us say, it is not a continuous process of human reformation structures. Whereas Phule's life, even if you make a film on Ranade tomorrow, or or Raja Ram Mohan Rai, Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar. Now, these are the forces that have changed our life. And more than anybody else, the Phules are the biggest source of India for resolving our inequalities along with Ambedkar without violence. See, Phule and Savitribai
What's
life.
also interesting is that Ambedkar, Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar, had talked of three persons as his gurus, and one of them was Mahatma Jyotiba Phule, apart
Yes, I
from
mean,
Buddha.
he talks about Tukaram, he wrote a article, lengthy article on Ranade, but he dedicated his key book called Who Were the Shudras to Mahatma Phule.
Mahatma Phule.
And it was when I saw that, who is this Mahatma Phule? Because I am a Shudra. Then I wrote recently my book, The Shudra Rebellion, and earlier another one published by Penguin, Shudra's Vision for a New Path. My main inspiration there is more than Ambedkar, it was Phule. Because Phule had a very serious engagement with daily agrarian work, labor, and market. He himself was a small contractor, and his father was a brass vessel dealer, and he himself sold the flowers to the British, to the temples. So here is a man who wrote Gulamgiri as the first Shudra text of India as a slavery, based on the real life of people, the real contradictions in the society. Now, that kind of man must go into every house. And Telangana government this year declared Savitribai's birthday as Women Teachers' Day. And this expansion is happening. People are happily receiving them. Yes, and some of the occurrences around their life will certainly come in a film or in discussion, in writing. Now, this is the thing that even till now, I am still waiting to see what would be the response of Prime Minister Modi, who went and saw Kashmiri Files, who went and saw the Gujarat film, 2002 film, and he has not spoken about it so far, nor interfered. And Rahul Gandhi seems to have given a tweet about it, that it should not have been dealt like that. Now, if this is allowed, I'm sure the conflict between the Shudra, Dalit, and women, I'm still waiting for the entire feminist response to Savitribai's, film, and then how they see her all over. Though her presence is more and more increasing now in colleges, schools, and so on. But after the film controversy came, I have not seen larger feminist groups talking about it.
So, in fact, even Maharashtra government, for example, till a few months ago, a movie called Chhawa was released, and it was loosely based on the life of Chhatrapati Sambhaji Maharaj. And we saw that the entire government went all out to promote the movie, to ask people to go and watch their own history, the Maratha history, which they should be proud of. And while the filmmakers of the Phules have claimed that they have political support across spectrum, apart from senior OBC leader Chhagan Bhujbal, nobody has really spoken on the public platform. But the filmmakers claim they have support of Raj Thackeray, they have support of the chief minister. Nobody has really come out and spoken openly in support of the film. Do you see that? This whole narrative around Dalit politics, around Shudra politics, is still a kind of a major factor that plays in Indian political circuits.
Well, Vinaya, the situation now is BJP has been speaking, RSS has been speaking that we are for casteless society. We are for promoting OBCs. And they won the recent election with the full support of OBCs. And on the other side, the Congress has taken up the caste census issue. BJP is silent. But when a film is made around a king, a fighter, after all, who introduced Chhatrapati Shivaji to Maratha society in a modern way? It was Phule. Phule wrote a book on Shivaji, and Phule wrote about their dynasty. Now, BJP government in Maharashtra promoted the Chhawa kind of film because the conflict was with the Muslims in the film. Now, if they think that they can, allow, the conflict with Muslims without any checks and balances can come into masses, and similarly, it can also be allowed as against OBCs and Dalits in this film. They are mistaken. They will be understood by these people. They want to use OBCs only for votes. And when it comes to their history, because Phule absolutely 100% represents Marathas. Phule 100% represents all Shudra, Reddis, Kammas. I have been saying that in Mandal Commission, all Marathas, Reddis, Kammas, Jats, Patels, all were part of the OBC definition. But these castes opted out to be out of reservation then because they were thinking that they would become Kshatriyas. They have not. Now they have realized without reservation their education status is nowhere and they want reservation. I'm very happy if they get their reservation by overcoming the 50% cap of the Supreme Court. The
But
battle
that's
is on in any case.
but that will be digressing from the issue.
Yeah.
So I
So
would like to take the last question
the
with
point
you.
is, Phule, see, if this film is allowed to come out with a lot of cuts, because Today I was watching, before talking to you, the official trailer after English subtitles is going viral across the world. Now, if some of the scenes from even the trailer are cut, all Shudra OBCs get hurt. And BJP can afford to do maybe many things vis-a-vis Muslims, but it certainly cannot afford to do these things to Shudra, OBC, Dalit, Adivasis. Phule and Savitribai are our gods and goddesses. They are our daily spiritual essence. And Ambedkar has already become a god more than anything. So therefore, I think if the BJP and the Maharashtra government and the film board, how did an OBC prime minister allow a film board that scrutinizes every aspect of film culture, in which caste is part, man-woman inequality, in which caste and other varna systems are part of it. Only Dvijas will be in the film board, and 52% of OBCs and Shudras are not capable of being on film board. Now, this is, if an OBC prime minister handles a biggest influential cultural industry like film, then there is a danger to Shudra history. There is a danger to not just Phules, but even to Buddha, even to Ashoka, because they are all social reformers, even to Tukaram. The entire Bhakti movement emerged out of the Shudra rebellion against Brahmanism historically. Now, if your film industry is meant for only presenting the Brahmin civilization as a positive Brahminic civilization, or a Kshatriya life, or a Vaishya life, not the Shudra life, then they will be exposed thoroughly. So my feeling is this film is going to be a turning point in BJP OBC relationship.
So it's an interesting statement that you make. And on that note, I would really like to thank you for your time for the Hindu, for our show Pulse Maharashtra with me, Vinaya Deshpande. It has been a pleasure talking to you, and the way in which you have spoken elaborately about the contribution of Mahatma Jyotiba Phule, Savitribai Phule, and what it means in the present political and social context. We are really grateful to you for that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Vinaya, for having me on Hindu